Your milk is dead. Open that carton, pour a glass, smell it. Nothing. No richness, just faint dairy. Leave it on the counter for 6 hours and it doesn't sour, it rots. The smell isn't tangy like yogurt. It's putrid, like decay. Because that milk has been killed, and dead things don't ferment. They decompose. Now travel back to medieval England. A milkmaid filled a pail at dawn. 3 days later, the family drank it. Not spoiled, transformed. Thick, tangy, probiotic-rich. It had become something new, something alive. What did medieval households know that your modern dairy industry systematically eliminated? Today, we're revealing what happens when you heat milk to 161 degrees Fahrenheit, why that safety process destroys a living ecosystem, and how the industry traded resilient milk for a fragile product that dies in days. That expiration date? It's not when the milk spoils. It's when the corpse becomes too obvious to ignore. When a cow produces milk, it's not just liquid nutrients, it's a living ecosystem. Billions of beneficial bacteria, enzymes that digest proteins and fats, antibodies that fight pathogens. Fresh raw milk contains lactobacillus, the same bacteria in yogurt. These bacteria consume lactose and produce lactic acid. As lactic acid builds, the pH drops from 6.7 to 4.5. This acidification creates an environment hostile to harmful bacteria like E. coli and Salmonella. Think of raw milk as a fortress with defenders. The beneficial bacteria are guards patrolling the walls. When hostile invaders try to colonize, the guards attack. They consume the food supply, they change the chemical environment, they produce antimicrobial compounds. This ecosystem is self-regulating. The beneficial bacteria outcompete harmful bacteria. The natural pH shift from fermentation preserves the milk through controlled acidification. Medieval households understood this through observation. Fresh milk from a healthy cow, kept cool, didn't spoil for days. It soured. It became clabber, thick and tangy like yogurt. It separated into curds and whey. These were transformations, not spoilage. Now look at your milk. The carton says pasteurized. That means the milk was heated to kill bacteria, all bacteria, the beneficial defenders along with any potential pathogens. Pasteurization heats milk to 161 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. Ultrapasteurization hits 280 degrees Fahrenheit. These temperatures denature proteins, destroy enzymes, kill all bacteria. What remains is a sterile liquid, no defenders, no self-regulating ecosystem, no ability to ferment safely. Just dead milk in a carton with an expiration date counting down. The industry destroyed the milk's natural defense system, then sold you the solution: continuous refrigeration. They removed the milk's ability to preserve itself, then convinced you industrial cold chains were necessary. The ecosystem was the preservation system. Pasteurization destroyed it. Everything after that is compensation. Heat to 161 degrees Fahrenheit denatures proteins. Milk proteins like casein unfold, lose their structure, lose functionality. Enzymes die, lactase, which helps digest lactose, lipase, which breaks down fats, phosphatase, which helps absorb calcium, all destroyed above 145 degrees Fahrenheit. The beneficial bacteria are killed. Lactobacillus dies at 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The entire population eliminated. The milk is now defenseless. In raw milk, if a few harmful bacteria are present, billions of beneficial bacteria outcompete them. The ecosystem has redundancy. In pasteurized milk, if a single harmful bacterium survives or enters through contamination, it multiplies freely with no competition. This is why pasteurized milk must be refrigerated continuously. The cold is the only thing slowing bacterial growth. It's a corpse kept cold to slow decomposition. Watch what happens when you leave raw milk and pasteurized milk on the counter at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Raw milk. The lactobacillus multiply rapidly. Within 24 to 48 hours, the pH drops to 4.5. The milk thickens into clabber, tangy and yogurt-like. It's stable in this state for days. Fermented, preserved through acidification. Pasteurized milk. Nothing happens at first. Then environmental contamination occurs. Bacteria, from air, from surfaces. These spoilage organisms multiply without competition. The milk doesn't sour cleanly. It rots. The smell is putrid, not tangy. The texture becomes slimy, not thick. Decomposition, not fermentation. Raw milk transforms into something preserved. Pasteurized milk decomposes into something toxic, and here's what should make you furious. In many US states, selling raw milk is illegal. The FDA calls it dangerous. They mandate pasteurization. But in Europe, raw milk is legal. France has raw milk vending machines. Germany sells it in grocery stores. The UK allows it with proper labeling. Their food safety data shows raw milk from properly managed dairies has contamination rates comparable to or lower than pasteurized milk from industrial operations. The US killed the ecosystem, mandated refrigeration, created a fragile product, and told consumers it's for safety. The ecosystem was the preservation system. Pasteurization destroyed it. Everything after that is compensation. Walk into a medieval dairy in summer. Along the walls are crocks. Some contain fresh milk from this morning. Others contain yesterday's milk, now thick and soured. Some contain curds separated from whey. Medieval households didn't try to keep milk fresh for weeks. They understood milk's nature. It's alive. It transforms. They worked with the transformation. Fresh milk was consumed quickly, within a day. What wasn't consumed went to a cool cellar or springhouse. These spaces maintained 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, cool enough to slow bacterial growth, but not stop it. The milk soured. The lactobacillus fermented lactose into lactic acid. The pH dropped. The casein coagulated into curds. The whey separated. This was expected. This was the goal. The medieval dairymaid managing this wasn't hoping for the best. She was a microbiologist. She knew that milk from a healthy cow, in a clean vessel, in a cool space, would sour cleanly. She didn't know the word lactobacillus, but she knew cause and effect. This was empirical microbiology refined through generations. The clabber was stable. At pH 4.5, harmful bacteria can't grow. The lactic acid preserves the milk. It could sit for days, even weeks in cool conditions. When needed, it was scooped out and used. Added to porridge, mixed with herbs, eaten with bread, or processed further. Curds separated from whey became soft cheese. Salt added for flavor and preservation. The cheese lasted weeks or months. The whey wasn't waste. High in protein and minerals. Fed to animals. Used in cooking. Sometimes fermented into whey beer. Nothing discarded. Fresh milk became clabber. Clabber became cheese and whey. Each transformation extended storage and created different products. Medieval people couldn't see bacteria under a microscope, but they knew the pattern. Fresh milk from healthy cows soured cleanly. Contaminated milk rotted quickly. So they kept cows healthy, vessels clean, dairy cool. Then they let milk do what milk does, ferment. They were running experiments across generations. Scientists before germ theory existed take raw milk from a clean dairy and pasteurized milk from a store, pour each into clean jars, leave both on the counter at room temperature. After 24 hours, raw milk, beginning to thicken, smell slightly tangy. Pasteurized milk, still liquid, no smell because no bacteria present. After 48 hours, raw milk, noticeably thick, almost yogurt-like, tangy smell, pleasant. Separated into thick curds on top, clear whey below. This is clabber. Safe, fermented, preserved, pasteurized milk, beginning to smell off, not tangy, sour in a wrong way, texture becoming slimy. After 72 hours, raw milk, fully clabbered, thick curds, clear whey, smell strongly tangy, still safe to eat, can be strained into cheese. Pasteurized milk, putrid, decomposition not fermentation, slimy texture, discolored, completely unsafe, same temperature, same time frame. The only difference is pasteurization. One transformed into something preserved, one decomposed into something toxic. Your great-grandmother didn't need yogurt starter cultures sold in packets. She had raw milk. The cultures were already there. Modern consumers buy bacteria separately because pasteurization killed what nature provided. They took away the milk's ability to preserve itself and replaced it with dependence on their products. If raw milk can ferment safely, why does the US dairy industry pasteurize everything? Industrial scale, centralized processing, extended shelf life for distribution. After World War II, dairy production industrialized. Operations scaled to thousands of cows, milk from multiple farms pooled at central plants. Distribution expanded to cover entire regions. At this scale, pooling milk from many sources increased contamination risk. Shipping hundreds of miles required extended shelf life. They chose pasteurization because pasteurization allowed centralization. Milk could be pooled, processed at mega facilities, shipped long distances. Killing bacteria extended shelf life from days to weeks, but that milk emerges defenseless. It must be refrigerated continuously. This created massive infrastructure requirements. Refrigerated trucks costing $150,000 to $200,000 each. Refrigerated storage at every stage. Refrigerated display cases. Mandatory home refrigeration. You're paying for this. In Europe, raw milk from local dairies costs 90 cents to $1.35 per litre. In the US, pasteurized milk costs $4 to $6 per gallon. You're paying extra for the infrastructure that compensates for destroying the ecosystem. But there's another cost. The average American household buys 2 gallons weekly at $5 per gallon. That's $520 annually. If you could buy raw milk and let it ferment into clabber and cheese, you could buy once weekly and process it into products that last weeks. Consumption might drop to $350 annually. Multiply across 130 million households. The dairy industry generates an extra $22 billion per year because pasteurized milk expires quickly and can't be preserved at home. Pasteurization isn't making milk safer, it's making it more profitable. It's creating dependence on continuous purchasing. They destroyed the ecosystem to create dependency. They shortened functional life to increase purchase frequency. This isn't about safety, it's about revenue optimization. Once milk is pasteurized, refrigeration becomes mandatory. If the cold chain breaks, problems multiply rapidly. February 2021, Texas, the power grid failed. Millions without electricity. Refrigerator temperatures climbed to 60 degrees Fahrenheit within 12 hours. Every gallon of pasteurized milk in every Texas refrigerator was at risk. The cold chain broke. No ecosystem to prevent contamination. Within 24 hours, millions of gallons were potentially compromised and discarded. If those had been households with raw milk and the knowledge to use it, the power outage wouldn't have mattered. Raw milk at 60 degrees Fahrenheit ferments into clabber. Still safe, still usable. The ecosystem handles temperature fluctuations. Medieval households didn't depend on infrastructure. You do. When infrastructure fails, your food dies. Their food transformed into something equally usable. Medieval preservation was passive and resilient. Modern preservation is active and infrastructure dependent. Check if raw milk is legal in your state. Some states allow sales from licensed dairies. Others allow herd share programs where you own part of a cow. If legal and available, buy raw milk from a clean, well-managed dairy. Ask about testing protocols, cow health, sanitation practices. Good dairies test regularly for pathogens. Store raw milk at 38 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit to keep it fresh for drinking up to a week. Or store at 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit if you want it to ferment into clabber. The fermentation is natural and safe from a healthy source. If raw milk isn't available, you can work with pasteurized milk differently. Make yogurt. Buy cultures or use existing yogurt as starter. Heat pasteurized milk to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Cool to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Add starter. Keep warm 8 to 12 hours. You're reintroducing bacteria that pasteurization killed. Make kefir. Buy kefir grains. Add to pasteurized milk. Leave at room temperature 24 hours. The grains contain dozens of bacterial strains that ferment the milk. Make cheese. Use rennet and cultures to transform pasteurized milk into hard cheeses that last months. You're doing manually what raw milk would have done naturally. The methods function. They functioned for millennia. They seem unusual because industrial systems made them unfamiliar, not because they're ineffective. The medieval dairy-made skimming cream from yesterday's clabber wasn't taking a risk. She understood cause and effect. Healthy cows produce clean milk. Clean milk ferments safely. Fermented milk preserves through acidification at pH 4.5. She was a microbiologist working with living systems. We made the opposite choice. We killed the ecosystem with heat. We destroyed the milk's ability to preserve itself. We eliminated the beneficial bacteria that defended against pathogens. Then we built a continent-spanning cold chain to compensate. We traded passive, biology-based preservation for active, infrastructure-dependent compensation. We traded resilient milk for fragile milk. We traded food independence for purchase dependency. And we did it because pasteurization enabled centralization and generated $22 billion in extra revenue through shortened functional life. Some European countries chose differently. They maintained access to raw milk. They proved clean raw milk from well-managed dairies is safe. Their food safety data confirms it. But we doubled down. We banned raw milk in most states. We mandated pasteurization. We built billions in cold chain infrastructure. We created vulnerability that manifests every time the power fails. And we told you it was for safety. It wasn't for safety. It was for centralization and revenue optimization. The ecosystem was the preservation system. Pasteurization destroyed it. Everything after that, the refrigeration, the regulations, the infrastructure, the expiration dates, the continuous purchasing, is compensation for damage that didn't need to happen. Your milk is dying in your refrigerator, not because milk is inherently fragile, but because we made it fragile. We killed its defenders, then convinced you it needed industrial support to survive. Medieval milk transformed into something preserved. Your milk transforms into something rotten. And every time someone in a raw milk legal state drinks fresh raw milk, lets it ferment into clabber, and makes cheese that lasts months, they prove the medieval method wasn't primitive or dangerous. It was right. It was microbiology. It was ecology. And it still works. If this changed how you see that milk carton, hit that like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who thinks raw milk is dangerous. The knowledge wasn't lost. It was systematically replaced with infrastructure-dependent alternatives that require you to buy more often. Subscribe. Let's keep examining what industrial systems buried.